Take an adventure into the paranormal, where you will discover many haunted locations, hear personal stories about paranormal encounters, and see a supernatural world through the eyes of experienced paranormal researchers Joe Franke and Dr. Heather Leigh. Joe Franke is a veteran in the paranormal world, beginning his journey in 1986 as an apprentice, working alongside his mentors, renowned researchers Ed and Lorraine Warren. Today, Joe is an accomplished paranormal researcher, demonologist, consultant, and lecturer with over 37 years of experience. Dr. Heather Leigh is the founder of Exploration Paranormal, based out of Southwest Central Florida, with more than 35 years' experience researching and investigating paranormal activity. She is a member of Paranexus, Anomalous Research Association, and the Witches Paranormal Society. Now, your hosts of Passport to the Paranormal, Joe Franke and Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Passport to the Paranormal. We are going to have an exciting show today. But first, hey, Joe, how are you doing? Long time no talk.
I am unsupervised.
Don't tell anyone.
I am unsupervised tonight.
That's not a good thing.
Well, Annabelle's watching.
And you wonder why I say we need insurance.
You're probably right. I don't hurt myself.
It's not for the guests, it's for us.
Yeah. Sorry we missed everybody last week. There was storms, I guess, right?
I know. And then I was worried today that I would be out of commission because we've had some really nasty storms coming through lately. But tonight we have a break.
Yeah, you lose power a lot there?
It's not so much power, but the internet goes wonky.
Yeah, we had some serious storms roll through here, but it's very rare that I lose power. We have a municipal power company.
Okay.
So the rates are low.
Yeah, ours aren't. And either Joe froze or I froze. Oh, there you are.
The good thing about the municipal power companies is if we do have an issue, they're usually fixed within a couple hours. Mm-hmm. The response time is pretty good, so
yeah,
gotta tip those guys.
Yeah. Okay, and Scott's joining us already. He says hello, and he hopes everything is well.
Let me look at the comments.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Scott.
So, but yeah, today I think is going to be a good show. The only thing here that's going to happen exciting is I think they're setting up a satellite or something. Bill might know more about it, but we're expecting 2 sonic booms around 11 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, they said that we might be able to hear it all the way where I'm at. So if there's a loud bang, nothing blew up. It's what we're expecting.
Usually when I hear bangs, it's a drive-by. But
yeah. So anything exciting?
I'm in rare form tonight. So.
I can tell. We got a lot of catching up to do. And actually, today is our first day we're doing 2 hours, so we have plenty of time to talk.
Yeah.
And
we can have
Jeff, I don't want to know about your sonic boom.
Hey, Steph. Oh,
yeah,
Jeff
Stephanie's here too. I just saw her pop on as well. So I guess rather than you and I just babbling back and forth, because we might forget about Bill, we might as well bring him on.
Oh, God. I hope he's not wearing a shirt.
Aiden and I are getting team shirts just to wear to Phantasm.
Yeah.
You're going to have my shirt for me, right? Because I'll wear it proudly.
I'm going to get a special shirt for Joe.
Oh, God. Imagine what it will say.
Yeah, and Bill, actually, since you're helping out with the convention, you need to help Aiden out. He wants to play the Anaconda song anytime Joe has to do a presentation or a panel as his introductory song.
We could do that. There's actually somebody there that I know will be there that can help with it.
I think I feel it's coming on for September.
It's been confirmed.
We got to get the band back together. We got to have Jeff and Steph and everybody come down and September.
Yep. Everybody's already picking on you, Joe, in the comments, so it's
good. I won't get picked on as much.
I know. I don't get picked on at all when Joe's on.
I asked for it. I thrive on it.
Oh, we lost you, Joe.
Yeah, I could barely hear you.
You can't hear me?
Very low.
No.
Really?
Oh, maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe they muted his mic on purpose.
What's going on with my mic?
See, now the best part is he's going to get frustrated. This is the best part.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I've never been accused of people not being able to hear me. You know, I've never, and seriously, whenever I've lectured, I've never used a mic.
Yeah, I don't like to use the mic when I'm lecturing at all.
No.
I have to at like MegaCon because there's like 500 people all stretched to the back, but I try not to.
Well, I mean, see, I don't know how you guys do it, but I walk around the crowd. I work the crowd. I don't like standing on a stage. You know, I just usually walk around the crowd. Sometimes I sit in the back and I'll look to the guy next to me and go, "Hey, good show, huh?"
Yeah, I don't like to sit at a lot of my team, they'll sit up at the thing and I'll just stand kind of in the front. I got to walk around. There's no way I could sit still.
Yeah.
There was a couple times at Fantasm last year where we were up on the panel just sitting there and it was driving me crazy.
The one you were sitting next to me, my leg was bouncing up and down because I didn't want to sit there either. And it's sad because then we look like we don't want to be there.
Yeah. I need to stand up.
Squeak was there.
Yeah.
Remember Squeak?
Yeah. Squeak will be there this year.
Oh, come on.
I'm telling you, I heard already.
She doesn't know I'm coming though, right? You didn't tell her.
Well,
Joe, you're all over the Facebook page and all over their website.
On the website.
Yeah, maybe she can't read.
You're an announced guest, believe me.
She doesn't need to be able to read. The photo's there.
That should be enough to scare everybody away. Yeah. Right, Jeff?
For those of you just tuning in that you don't know, Bill, Joe, and myself will be at Fantasm here in Orlando in September 15th, 16th, and 17th. So if you guys are in the area or traveling to the area, make sure you come and see that. We're probably going to be talking about that a little bit tonight about what we have planned. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk tonight about is kind of basically how we do our investigations, because I'm sure all three of us do it differently. Bill, you have that 10-foot table of equipment, and here I have my fidget spinner.
So did you have to run to U-Haul this year to bring all your equipment?
It depends on what type of investigation we're talking about. There's a small pack for residentials, and then there's the truckload for the public stuff.
Yep. But yeah, that was funny. You had equipment there I'd never even seen.
The best is when I set that all up at the table, and then you get some younger people that are coming up, and the reason I bring it all with me, it's not like, hey, check out all my equipment. It's most people watch this stuff on TV and they've never seen the equipment in real life, and they're like fascinated by it. But some of them are funny, some of the younger kids, because they come up and they're looking, and I got old school, micro cassette recorders, and they don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah. Well, just the display it by itself is impressive. I mean, people are just drawn to what is all this stuff, and then you start engaging them in conversation. I mean, I was impressed by it. I'm like, I have a couple of pieces of equipment, but Bill, literally, if you haven't been to Phantasm, you got to come this year just to see Bill's display and get Heather's book. We got to plug that too.
Yeah, it'll be one of the rare times, at least as of now, that you can get both Joe's and my signature in that book.
Yeah, there you go.
Joe wrote the foreword, and then actually Chris will be there, and I'll have copies of the Southern Nevada Ghost Towns, and Chris wrote the foreword to that book. So I tell people that they can get both our signatures in that one as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's good.
Yeah, and Chris doesn't come to the States often, so that's a rare occasion to get both of ours.
I may have something to do with that.
I'll just sign it anyway.
You sign my name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun weekend for sure.
Yep, definitely looking forward to it. And someone has a quick question already. They said they came into the chat a little late. Have any of you been to a sanatorium or prison before? If so, what equipment would you recommend? I haven't.
We used to go to it was one of my favorite places until they demolished it here in
Mhm.
Belglade, the abandoned Belglade prison. That was a fantastic place. Um, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you want basics, video, and audio, and if you want to bring any, I mean, when I went to the prison, I brought everything just for me, because it was an abandoned prison in the middle of the sugarcane fields, so you have like no power anywhere around there, so it's a fun place to really like test your equipment and learn how some of it works and what can set things off, because you bring a REM pod somewhere and it's going to go off to a lot of different things. You bring it to an abandoned prison and it's a little different. So go basics first. Always have audio and video. At that point you could bring just about anything. I don't know, what do you guys prefer?
I still do the non-tech tools. So I would bring my dowsing rods, my pendulums. After last week's Ghost Education 101, I might bring a Ouija board. Joe, you got to watch that show. It was really good.
No wonder I wasn't invited on that show.
You know we're gonna do a Phantasm. We're gonna have one panel where me, you, Chris, and Joe do a Ouija board session. Yes. Now that would be fun.
I do want to. Joe and I have been working on a presentation called it was to Ouija or not to Ouija, and I'm hoping to have that ready in time for Phantasm.
Oh, I thought you said Luigi.
Okay. No.
I did the old Newgate prison here in Connecticut many years ago. I hear a lot about things like what's the place in Pennsylvania there, the prison. I haven't been there. I want to go to Alcatraz. That's on my bucket list.
Penhurst,
thank you.
Yeah.
No, Eastern States is the one I was thinking of, but Penhurst is another one. I don't know. I've always just brought my basic equipment. I bought, a camera, obviously, recorder, my Sony magnetic tape recorder. I've gotten more evidence on that than any digital recorder I've used.
Yeah.
And I have some theories about that, but handheld. I've got a couple of like body cameras that are good that you could put on and they'll shoot pretty good video. And you don't have to hold them either. You just clip them on your chest or whatever, and pick up whatever you pick up. But I would start off basic. Bill, you're seriously high tech, but for the beginners, no, seriously though, for beginners, you don't want to be encumbered by all this heavy equipment and stuff.
No.
Handheld, or even your cell phone. The cell phones they make today have pretty good cameras on them. But I have a nice Canon. It's a
I wouldn't go with the phone.
What's that?
I wouldn't really go with the phones, but
well, I
cringe to the phone like Joe cringes to the Ouija board.
Well, I wasn't saying use Ghost Tube.
Yeah, no. It's if you don't have equipment,
Yeah, if it's all you have, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you don't need all the equipment. For anybody who doesn't know me out there, I'm also an IT director during the day for 30 years. So I'm a tech junkie with stuff. So I'll get just about anything to at least try it out. Just don't use phone apps, please. We're not going to get on that. Just don't use it.
That's a whole nother show in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do a show eventually just on equipment.
Yeah,
on equipment alone, because I'd like to hear the pros and cons of a lot of the stuff that I don't use, like cat balls.
I was gonna say maybe if we're all in Orlando the Thursday before the Phantasm, we could do a live.
Yeah,
that Thursday while you're setting up.
I remember years and years ago, Ed Warren used to always wear these like safari jackets with a lot of pockets in them. And he'd always say, a good investigator never goes anywhere without a flashlight. We always have these little $2 flashlights, but you got to have a flashlight with you. And I always bring backup batteries because you never know, your batteries can get drained very quickly.
Right.
I mean, how many of us have put brand new batteries in our equipment right out of the wrapper, and within minutes they probably drained. Believe me, if you're stuck in a place like Dudleytown, if you've ever been to Dudleytown, Connecticut, you can't see your hand in front of your face at night. It's really dark. So, if your flashlight goes out, you're spending the night.
I was on a case where 8 of my 9 rechargeable batteries for my camcorder just didn't work, and they were all charged from the night before. I would put them in, and it would say full, and it would just drain immediately. 8 of the 9. I don't know why it left me 1, but and like Joe
I
was
think
saying,
they know.
no, and like Joe was saying, have a flashlight, but this is
Hold
a
it down.
flashlight. It's to see.
Yeah.
It's not to ask questions.
Because I mean, going with the batteries, I mean, who was it? Our film crew when we were at Goldfield Cemetery. The minute they got out of the car and turned their camera on, and he just put a new battery on there, his camera died. And he's like, so he went back to the car, got another battery, turned it on, died again. But they left him one so we could film.
I don't get it. I'm telling you, when we go places sometimes now, I have 15, 16 of those batteries for my camcorder because I just don't trust it. And if we go somewhere, 2 hours from here and I get there and it drains 8 batteries and I have no more, I'm going to be pissed.
I mean, how many times have we set up equipment overnight somewhere and maybe left, and you come back the next day and nothing recorded because the batteries drained, and didn't even run for 2 or 3 or 4 hours. That's very frustrating because that was kind of a waste.
Yeah.
The spirits know, but I do know. Getting back to the prisons real quick. Next week, our guest is going to be Brent Burris, and he has investigated the Nevada State Prison several times. So he's going to be talking about. Next week would also be a good time if you want to know more information about investigating prisons, because he's done quite a bit, and that's actually a working prison still.
Have you ever been? You were never at the Belgrade prison, right?
No.
No. It was one of the saddest things when they demolished that. We had it for
a lot of things
time.
getting demolished, and it's sad.
You know what it was though? It was people. People were going in there, and look, it's a place where, like I said, you're in the middle of the sugarcane fields, and the cops aren't going in there unless there's a real problem. But go in there, do what you got to do, and get out. They were going in, and they were burning down buildings at times. And the last straw, I think, was they burnt down the church. And then I guess the state had enough, and they sold it off. I guess the last time I went there, they demolished it, and it was building a factory or something.
Right.
Shame.
Yeah. That's like Bonnie Springs out in Vegas. They sold it, and it's now a subdivision. And they tore down the old West Town and all the replicated buildings and everything, and it's sad.
It's tough for it. And it's tough where I am in Florida. Because anything that becomes abandoned by the end of the month, pretty much it's demolished. It's not like out in the woods somewhere where some things will just be around for a while. I mean, that prison was there for a while, but that's still over an hour or two from me. But in our area, forget it. You can't find anything abandoned.
No, I had some difficulties when I was researching my latest book, Haunted Florida Ghost Towns. And it was like, I would say 50% of the ghost towns I wrote about was the history and the paranormal activity, but you can't go visit them anymore because they've been demolished and replaced.
Yeah. I remember going through the abandoned Florida website, looking for some places I'd never heard of. And I'm like, wow, check this place out. You get all the way to the bottom, leveled in 2020. All right, you get down to the bottom, 2018. Everything's gone. There's so many places there, but they get wiped out.
Yeah, I have some up this way, like the Fairfield Hills Sanatorium or whatever it was. That closed, I think, in 93. And they won't let anybody in there, but obviously you get all these urban explorers that break in. And I tell people in all seriousness, do not go in without permission. Because number one, it's a safety issue. You can get hurt, and no one's going to know you're in there. God forbid, you get seriously hurt and you can't call for help. But
I would never do that.
But, no, I mean, I never have, but, a lot of times when I've gone to places like that with permission, or even cemeteries, people will say, oh, where's that cemetery located? Where you got those good photos or good video? And I'm like, well, I'll say, well, I don't like to give locations because in the past I've had police departments, I've had people tell police officers, well, Joe said it's okay to come here. And that's not true. I've actually had that happen, and they know it's not true because these police departments I kind of have a relationship with, and I'll even call them, or I'll start with the cemetery association and say, do you mind if I come in here after after hours. Sometimes they'll say no, and I'll respect that. But
Well,
call the police and say, hey, look, you guys, this is my car, my plate number. I was just going to go take some shots and leave, and they're usually cool with it. But if you don't ask, and you go in there and kick you out, but that's because every year I'm sure you hear about these headstones that get kicked over and damaged and destroyed. You got a headstone that's been there for 300 years. In 2 seconds somebody kicks it over. Ha ha ha! It's a lot of fun. It's not, because you can never make those whole again.
well,
with a lot of expense and effort, you can patch them, but they're never whole again. I think that's disgusting. But that's for another show. We'll talk about that.
Well, when I used to go to Belglade, at first, I used to call the Palm Beach County Sheriff, and I would let them know that we're going in there. I'm a professional team. We're just going in to do some research, and here's my number just in case. And the first few times they were like, okay, no problem. They just took it, I guess. I don't know. But then I called one time, and they were giving me I didn't give my number or my name yet. I just said, I'm calling to tell you I'm going to be, and they're like, well, do you have permission? You can't be in there without, and I just hung up. I was like, all right, we went anyway. But
that's because they can't track your phone.
Yeah. I never called again, but
well, there are places like Union Cemetery, obviously made famous by Ed and Lorraine, Union Cemetery of Easton, Connecticut. And there became a point in the late 80s, early 90s where the police department would get so angry with the Warrens because they would bring groups of people there. And we would all be respectful, but, it brought a lot of attention to it. So then you get all the thrill seekers that show up afterwards, and the police would get called out there, every night of the week, people seeing flashlights in there and stuff. And some of them would do some damage, probably, or they'd find damage afterwards. And I'm not really sure who did it, but the police department would get very upset. So one time I remember they worked out a deal with the police department, and the police department had a list of names. I was fortunate to be on that list, but then it just got so far at hand, they just tore up the list and said nobody's allowed in there after dark. I mean, they tried to work with us, which I appreciated, but the few ruined it for the many. And I'm sure that happens just about everywhere.
Always.
It's frustrating. I don't get a lot of chance to do that anymore, but in my younger days, when I first started out, that's what I used to do. We hung out in the back of that cemetery many times to try to get the ghost of the white lady on video. I never did. Maybe it was me.
Well, I mean, people do have to understand. I mean, I'm joking with it too, in a way, but it is very dangerous, not just about going in and getting in trouble with the cops. I mean, Belglade is notorious for having like a ridiculous amount of gang activity there. It's highly dangerous, that city. And, where better for gangs to hang out than in an abandoned prison. It's a 250-acre prison. So you have to be careful. I mean, if you're going to go somewhere, go there during the day in the light and check it all out first, because you have hazards. You have holes in floors. You have mold. You have animals. There's so many things you definitely get hurt in. You got to be careful.
What else we got here for questions?
I'm looking at them. SW wants to know, are REM pods reliable? I've never used one, so that's you, Bill.
Well, no. They're like, again, it depends on what type of investigation you have. It's Waverly. Yeah, I mean, they are to a point. You have to know how they work and what can set them off. I even learned on it. I just learned on it on one of the last podcasts I was on. I had no idea that a walkie-talkie can set the REM pod off, because a REM pod is different than other things. It's not detecting EMF. It puts an EMF, shield around it, and something has to break it. Or if you do a loud bang or you hit something close on the floor, it can set it off a little bit. But I had no idea that walkie-talkies can set it off.
Cell phones too, Bill, I think.
Well, yeah, cell phones, yeah. Cell phones I know, but walkie-talkies I never knew, because I very rarely use them. But they say that if you push the button to talk, even if you just hit the button a little bit, it can set the REM pods off. So, it kind of depends on the situation that you're in, what the area is, what's going on, and what people have on around them, and is it responding to? You always look for intelligent responses. Is it responding to something you're saying, as opposed to just going off out of nowhere?
Yeah.
It's so is it reliable?
I would
I
say
don't know
no.
about that, but I would say
it's interesting, especially if they go off almost on cue, but it doesn't prove anything.
yeah.
How do you prove
Have multiple pieces of equipment with you to kind of counteract each other and see.
cat balls, Steph? They're
Yeah.
cat balls. That's what I call them, because cat balls are funnier than saying spirit balls.
But I'll tell you about this. This is what I tell people about the cat balls. If you use the cat balls, what are they? They're just motion activated. There's a million things that could set them off, from the slightest breeze to whatever. But if you take them, and let's say you're doing like a hotel, you put it on the bed and sink the comforter down a little bit and put it to where it can't easily roll.
Yeah.
If it goes off, it's a little more convincing at that point, because something really had to push it out of there, because the wind ain't gonna blow it at that point.
Yeah, that's why I like the fidget spinners. They're heavy enough to where they're not going to spin on their own, and but yet they're easy enough to spin. So, and it's exciting when they do. I do have to say that one.
Yep.
I just like saying cat balls.
Hey, Joe, you were around from the time back like me. We used to put a bell hanging on the cabinet doors, and they used to use flour.
Oh yeah, see if there's any little footprints in the flour or whatever. Don't use sugar, you just get ants.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them produce some interesting results, but can you really be proven? Can you say without a shadow of a doubt that that's something paranormal? I don't think any of us can. But people they'll say, "Oh, the cat ball went off." I asked the question, it started lighting up, and they're like, "That." People will argue with it all day long. That's proof. I'm like, proof of what?
No.
I don't agree with it. Although so we agree to disagree. But to base your whole case on that, or the flashlight thing.
No. That's look. I always say this with the flashlight thing. If the spirits they can manipulate electronics and power and energy and all stuff like that. But if that's true, then just leave the flashlight there normal and say, turn it on. If it turns on, you don't have to unscrew it until you just break the connection. And then we all know that any slightest temperature change or whatever causes that thing to touch and not touch. And everybody thinks it says yes, no. And that's not true at all. That's a TV trick.
Well, I mean, the same thing with things like the spirit boxes, and you're listening through all this white noise to hear things. And I tell people, if there is something intelligent that wants to respond, it will. You don't need all these toys and gadgets. To my opinion,
no, you don't need them.
Just somebody's making a living off of selling these. Hey, yay, capitalism! But I just feel people are spending all this money, and if they see somebody on TV using it, then these people go out, rush to Amazon or whatever, and they start buying all this stuff.
Right. But that's the thing. It's fine. Like, I take a lot of that stuff out when we do the public stuff and have fun and test everything out. I love it, but you're the
perfect guy to do that. You test it, and you might say, geez, I'm an IT guy for 30 years. I've got a lot of experience with this equipment. In my opinion, this is a good piece of equipment. So I would be the one to ask you, Bill.
Right.
You know more about that than I do.
That's the thing. People just have to understand that whatever equipment you have, understand what that piece of equipment does and understand how to debunk it first. I mean, that's the main thing. It's like, understand that, like I tell people all the time, what is the paranormal? It's the unexplained. If you can explain it, it's not paranormal. So you have to know how it works and take it for what it is. Like you said, don't, because the cat ball went off, play around with it now, test it and try to reproduce it, try to get it intelligently, but just don't think, holy crap, we got a demon here now because the cat ball went off,
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, people are so easily swindled.
Yeah, wait.
By this equipment, and I'm an old-fashioned, I'm an old-timer. I don't use a lot of that fancy stuff. To be honest with you, I can't afford to buy all that equipment. Bill, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment you have, but if you need security, I can come down with my 45.
I got to take some insurance out. But wait, there's a perfect example. My wife is saying that we just got a new cat. We have a kitten here, and
Oh yeah, how's the
and
hairless creature doing?
the hairless Sphinx, yeah, Annabelle. So we have. You ever see one of those toys that it's like a round thing and it has a little like Nerf ball in it or a little ball in it, and they go in and they touch it and it goes around. We put one of the cat balls in there. So now, she's using it, but then we'll be sitting there just watching TV and it's on the floor and it just starts going off. So
how's it haunted then?
that Vivian keeps saying, is it coming from the TV? Is it the sound? I go, no, it's not the sound. It just keeps going off. I said, maybe it's our cat that died last year. I don't know.
Do you believe in spirits, animal spirits?
Yeah. Never know.
Yep. Yeah, my mom, we can, her cat comes and visits often. I can feel it when I'm sleeping on the mattress bed. I can feel it walking on the bed like it used to when it was alive. And I, reach over because she has cats now and there's nothing there. And then I can hear her old dog. It was a small Pomeranian, go down the stairs because he had a bell. And he's been dead for years, but you hear this little tink, 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 tink going down the stairs. It's like, oh, Frodo's visiting.
Well, I kept telling Vivian also, I kept saying there was times when my other cat passed away. I said, it's crazy. I walk out and I'm telling you, I smell the litter box. And one time I thought I heard her, and I think she thought I was a little crazy. And then one day she's like, I smelt it. I know what you're talking about. I said, yeah, I mean, who knows? It's like anything, you smell your grandmother's cigarettes or somebody's perfume or something. Could the cat be like that too? Who knows?
You never know. Jeanette had asked earlier, what do you think the most haunted city is?
Haunted city.
My opinion is got to be St. Augustine, just because it's the oldest city in the country. It has probably more haunted history in it than most places. A lot of them have a piece here, a piece there, but it's like, I mean, you walk into the grocery store there and you can find something. That place is filled, so that's what I would say. I mean, there may be certain locations around the country that a location may be more haunted, but I would say city-wise, I would say St. Augustine.
Yeah, I'd say that too, followed closely by Key West.
Key West too, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys just talking about Florida or all over?
No, in general.
All over. Yeah.
Boy. I mean, I know obviously New England is the oldest part of the country. There's a lot of stuff up here in New England, but it's a tough call to say what city.
Well, St. Augustine.
I agree with you. It's the locations, like Gettysburg, for example. Look at how many thousands of people died within a couple of days at Gettysburg. Of course, you're going to have residual energy there. But it's a very good question. I don't know if I can answer that. But there's so many.
I say the only reason I say St. Augustine is because St. Augustine is the oldest city in the country, and it has. That's I found out myself. But it's. So I just think there's so much history there from so many different things that it could be. I don't know. I don't know every city what they have, but there are probably some places that are definitely more haunted, just a single location. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that would depend on a bunch of factors. What tragedies occurred there, how many souls were lost. It's a good question, though. It's something to ponder.
I want to answer Scott right there. Kenny Biddle has a lot of videos explaining a lot of different things. But yeah, he explains the flashlight trick very well. I have a video that shows somebody that did an experiment with it where they tested it using a thermal camera also, showing that how the slightest temperature changes will cause it to turn on and off. And you can see it actually through the thermal imagery. It's pretty cool.
I'd like to see that. Is that something I can access online, or
I could get it to you? I have it.
I'd like to look at that. I'm interested.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then Nicole just wanted. I think you and Nicole are all on the same wavelength because just as you guys were talking about bells to the doors, she was asking if you guys have tried the bells before. We've tied them to doors to make sure no one comes in there when we're investigating or when we set up a camera in there and leave.
Well, I mean, you guys know you've been doing this a long time too. Back in the day, we didn't have all these toys.
Right.
I used to use a compass for EMF readings. You go into a place with a high MEF, and the compass would just start spinning. I still have it in my kit. You know,
Right.
we didn't have all the toys and stuff. There wasn't even the internet back then. Oh my God, how old?
Stop dating us.
I
Stop
know, I'm
dating us
like,
all, Joe.
I mean, you know,
Todd, this is when you mute him.
What? Did you hear me?
Yeah, but no, yeah, we didn't have all that stuff back then. Absolutely. I mean, and some of the equipment, even to have a camera and stuff back then, you had to be rich.
But yeah, I mean, shit, I started using Polaroid. If anybody remembers that.
Absolutely.
You know, we used to use Polaroid, and this is long before digital.
Mhm.
I remember a 35 millimeter. I don't even think they still make those. 35 millimeter, and the best speed would be about 400 speed. 200 speed wasn't fast enough, and then if you do like 1,000, it was, if you blew the picture up, it got really grainy.
Yeah.
So 400 speed was like, all right, you know, you'd go to a location, load your camera right there with a new thing of film, probably put fresh batteries in it. You know, I told you the story about me taking the pictures with the, and Ed looks over at me and goes, Joe, you got to take the lens cap off. I was so excited, and they're like 20 years old, and I'm like, God, I got the lens cap on this new camera I just bought. But
it was tough.
Polaroids and, you know,
It was
then
tough with
digital
the
came
original
out.
cameras. Original 35 millimeter cameras were tough because you had to really know how to work it because of the lighting.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, digital cameras are going to adjust everything to the lighting, but
And you wouldn't know immediately.
no, yeah, exactly.
And processing the film was expensive. And you go down, you drop them off at, the Photo Mart or whatever it is.
That's why I worked at Ritz Camera. I got it for free.
Yeah, well, but then you go pick up your pictures and they're all whitewashed. And like, well, what
exactly.
Exactly. Did I do something wrong, or did somebody steal my photos? And I had that happen to me once too.
And you had to tell the person processing it to print all of them, because if they saw something that was blurry or out of focus or looked like nothing, they wouldn't print them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've got a lot of photos like that. And then, of course, you get a lot of photos where there's absolutely nothing in them. And you just spent all this money on film, on the processing. It was pretty expensive. And then you wouldn't get anything. But at least with digital, you have instant gratification. Either you got something, you didn't.
When digital cameras came out, I got my first digital camera. It was the greatest thing. Wherever I went for anything, not just paranormal, I would take 8,000 photos and come home and just be like, I hope I got one good one, because it didn't matter. You just click. It didn't matter. You weren't paying how much per roll. Yeah.
I think I still have my first one. There's a 1 megapixel Olympus. I'm sure I still have it here. I don't throw anything out.
I still have a film camera.
Oh yeah, I do too. I mean, but do they still make they must make film.
They do. Yeah, they do. Most of it you have to either send away to get developed, or if you're lucky enough to have one place by you that, like a private like photography studio that may have their own, room in the back to develop the film.
And Bill, here's a question for you. Does that old 35 millimeter film decay over time, even if it's in the canister? Because I have maybe 24 rolls of it that I had come across, and Laura,
I have a few.
We got to get those developed because there's probably pictures of the kids on there when they were small.
It's funny. It is pretty sealed.
Yeah.
And if you have it inside the little plastic case they come in with the top, it could stay. I mean, I've seen people develop stuff after 10, 15 years, and it was there, but it's about a 50-50. It could easily decay in there.
I'm gonna have to, just out of sight, out of mind. But I think in my desk drawer here, I have a bunch of them.
Yeah, I got about 5 or 6.
Send them away to get developed to see I don't even know what's on them. They could be pictures I've taken on cases, or they could be pictures of the kids.
You sure you want to send that away?
Pictures I don't want to know. Yeah.
Yeah, you sure you want to send that away to somebody that might wind up on the internet? Here's the anaconda.
I don't care. I share with everybody, except Jeff.
You never know who's on the other side developing it.
That's true. I'll be blackmailed.
Yep. Nicole wants to know if we think the ones on film are more legit than the ones today, I guess is what she's asking.
Well,
with the prints.
I guess today, with all the Bill wouldn't be a good one to answer this question, but with all the photoshopping and all the software programs where you can manipulate photos, I mean, that's more prominent than you can't manipulate a negative, can you?
No, you
I don't know.
there were people.
You can.
there were people who were good, but No, but I mean, back in the day, I would say that it was more legit. Digital cameras. You know, it's funny. I don't want to bring the word up because I don't want to start the whole conversation. But
Bring
orbs,
it up.
but
Orbs are
the
real.
word, but the term orb came from the birth of digital cameras because they were the things created by the flash. So in a lot of, you saw it, you have one, Heather, right? In a lot of the camera manuals, they will talk about it on how to take a picture and avoid creating orbs on your photos. So there's a lot of things in digital cameras that can be a little wonky with stuff. And yeah, now it's hard to tell because I mean, look, I've been a graphic designer since the mid 90s, and I know a fraction of what some of these people do, and it's amazing. I've seen some stuff that really gave me a run for my money on photoshopping and stuff. Some people are really good at video editing and AI now. Forget it. I don't even want to think about that.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see
doesn't wanna
ghosts
talk
everywhere
about
with AI.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
I
the new thing.
I was studying photography just at that crossover where digital cameras were just starting to come out. And we were actually taught to, if we were going to use digital cameras for any of our photographic work that we were doing for our class, we had to put tissue paper over the flash.
Yeah.
To help lessen the blow of an orb or something like that appearing in there.
Yeah, we're making a lot of friends tonight. People are going to be pissed after this show. What do you mean that orbs are not real?
Like, what did I tune into?
Oh, you should have seen the Ghost Education 101. Actually, it got taken down off of Facebook.
Did it?
Really?
That's why it disappeared. Someone complained and they took it down.
Well, sorry to disappoint folks, but we've been doing this a long time. Orbs usually are nothing, and I'll say usually because I'll leave some wiggle room there. But
yeah, exactly. Look at the EXIF information if you're in doubt.
Speaking of orbs, Joe, you should have been involved in our little battle yesterday in one of the Facebook groups.
I didn't have enough popcorn.
That one was out of control. This one was out of control. I had Stephanie in there. Everybody was in on it. Jeff, it wouldn't let him post. Facebook kept telling him you can't post. It wouldn't let him post.
Yeah, Jeff,
I don't know why.
Dropping F-bombs on Facebook.
No, they were.
This was the biggest battle I think I've seen on there. It was totally.
I wish I'd known about
it. They shut the comments off finally at about like 6 p.m. I think it was.
Yeah, 130 comments later.
Yeah. Oh, it was nuts. I had to deal with somebody that was trying to say to this person that thought they had a bunch of spirit orbs in their photo. Told them that don't listen to anybody. That's true. That they have hundreds of spirit orbs flying through their house every day. So, and normally I'm very calm, very professional. I'm very, Heather knows I'm very calm. I'm very professional.
I was already watching it before you tagged me.
Yeah, we lost this one a little bit because the last comment that I think shut it down was when I told that person that they truly believe they have hundreds of spirits flying through their house, that they need a psychiatric evaluation, and I work at a treatment facility and I could get them in if they want. And then that was the end of the comments.
Yeah, believe me, you probably wouldn't have wanted me on there. But people got to understand, look, we don't have all the answers, but
no, of course not.
We've done this long enough to know what things are. I mean, look at the people that send in these videos. I've looked at hundreds, thousands of them probably, of videos where you see these light streaks and it's moving. I'm like, well, that's a freaking spider web. And the light of the IR camera, it's a spider web, and it'll be moving back and forth, and it reflects off the strand of the web. Right. But people are convinced they're ready to move out of their house because they think, I got a demon here. I'm like, oh my god.
And I try, Joe. I try going. I'm honestly, I'm very nice, and I don't go in like a lot of people just go in and say, dust your house, stupid, and I don't do that. I actually give them a detailed explanation of what it is and why and how it was caused and kind of how to avoid it. And a lot of times it's good, and then sometimes they just turn.
Yeah, because they're just looking for someone to agree with them.
Yeah, of course.
Jump from group to group to group, from page to page to page, until they find somebody that will validate. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's one thing it's honest. You may not like the answer, but if be careful about asking the question. Then.
I actually had I actually had a very nice lady today on the Gettysburg Ghost Group. She posted something, and I went in. It wasn't a picture or something. She was just saying that she's been there, and she had used the word demonic. She said there was demonic stuff there, and I explained that demons don't hang out in Gettysburg, in battlefields and things like that. And there was a lot of people going back and forth, and I wasn't rude to her. She wasn't rude to me in any way. And she actually messaged me on the side and was talking to me and said she shouldn't have used the word demonic. She meant dark entities, and she was actually asking me if there was a difference between them, and that's what it's about. It's not about discrediting somebody or trying to make fun of them in any
Right.
way. It's actually to educate.
That's what we've always said. We want to
Yeah.
educate people. And I've always said, look, I don't know everything. I don't know the answers to everything. But what I do know, I would like to share that knowledge with people.
Exactly.
We all learn from one another. We've all got different experiences. We're all from different backgrounds. But the people that are so closed-minded and like, no, it's an orb, so-and-so said so, or Zach Bagans said that this is it. I'm like, oh, God. I'll just pray for your soul.
Well, that's the thing. Some of them will say, well, who are you? Why should I believe you? And then I'll explain.
I'm nobody.
But then I'll explain. I had 35 years of experience and education, and then they come back and go, "Oh, it's all about your ego." My ego. You just asked me. I'm telling you how I know, or what I believe, why I believe it, because of my experience and my education and whatever. But,
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, of course.
You try to give them an answer, you try to educate them, and like you just said, they're like, well, who the hell are you? Who are you, an expert? Let's not get on that subject.
But I tell people also the reason I do it is because any of those posts, even if it turns out to be one of the worst ones where they're ripping on me and saying all kind of stuff, I will get people on the side that will message me privately and either ask my opinion for something because they believe what I'm saying or looking for help. We've gotten a lot of cases through those actual groups, because they see what I'm saying and they look at it as somebody who knows what they're talking about a little bit. So maybe I'll reach out to them first. And that's what I hope for.
That's just it. I ask people to send them to me privately, either, email them to me or through Messenger, because you don't want to get into these battles on a public forum. I always said nobody wins those battles. Even if you know you're right, you're not going to win that battle because whatever you say, they're always going to come back with another answer.
Actually,
I don't engage in that kind of drama. I just don't have.
Yesterday, was it yesterday? I think yesterday actually was a funny one. Also, besides that one, somebody, or maybe it was on that one before it was shut off. I don't remember. All I know is I was telling somebody, and they asked me again about how I know this, and I said I have 35 years of experience, education, blah, blah, blah. And I said all you need to do is people need to just look outside of paranormal a little bit and educate themselves on some technology and certain things that can help you identify things. And they wrote back, somebody that was not even part of the conversation, and I'm all good with it, came in out of nowhere and just said, okay, well, no disrespect, but to educate you, the word a lot is two separate words, a and lot, because I put them together. I'm like, so I wrote back and I said, that's all good. I said, I type fast and I don't always check it. I said, the difference is I see the mistake and acknowledge it. That's the difference. They're not acknowledging what they're saying.
So I'd say, well, how do you know? Are you an English major?
Yeah, I laugh at that.
You have a
I thought it was
master's in
funny.
grammatical,
Pretty hard to.
That's really petty.
Pretty hard to disrespect.
I've never had any issues like that, to be honest with you. If people disagree with me, sometimes people put up a good argument. You know what? I have an open mind. Maybe you're right. I'm not too proud. If I don't know the answer, I might give you what I think, but I'll say, I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I've asked people in my audiences, that say, that's a good theory. I never thought of it that way. Why don't you research that? Here's my number and text me when you find the answer. Right. Educate me. Yeah. I'm not too proud, but it's the people that want to square off against you and say,
that's
well,
what they are.
You're lying.
Exactly.
You're making an apple. I had a guy once 15 or so years ago point to a picture I was showing on the screen and say, well, I've been a photographer for 25 years and I can tell that photo's been manipulated and doctored. And you know, I know my buddy who was with me he had a temper and he was getting angry. I said, I'll handle this. I said, first of all, sir, let me thank you for the compliment because I took the photo. And I said, I'm here on a Friday night, an hour away from home, away from my family and my young children. I said, and you're here for free. This was a library event that I did, which are always free to the patrons. I said, what do I have to gain by coming up here and lying to you and making stuff up? I said, if you want to believe that, that's fine.
Right.
Believe whatever you want to believe. I said, you know, and he could tell I was pretty upset by it, you know, and I said, why don't you come up and see me after the show and we could talk about it. Well, he came up after the show and was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to insult you. I'm like, look, you can disagree with me. You can disagree with my methods, my photos, I said, that's fine. We're all individuals. I said, but be respectful. I said, don't interrupt my presentation when there's 50 other people here. And they were getting on him too. I'm like, no, leave him alone, you know, whatever. But I won't stand for being disrespected or you guys or anybody in the foundation or whatever or outside the foundation being disrespected because we have different points of view. We should all respect one another.
A debate is fine. I'll debate anybody all day, and I may be wrong too. You know, I have no problem debating somebody, but there's no need to get disrespectful. And that's what it was. I tagged people in that one thing yesterday to try to get other opinions, you know, and then Stephanie's messaging me going, I'm getting attacked. And there was no reason that these people just went crazy.
They left me alone. I made my comment and I got a couple thumbs up and then they left me alone.
You and David
that have the ego problems. Yeah. Okay. Their ego, it's such a blow to their ego that someone's challenging them. They're the ones with the ego problems. I'd be like, oh, okay. I never thought of it that way before. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Sorry, Bill. Go ahead. You were saying something.
No. That's all it was. It was, you know, I do find it entertaining, but you know.
Or when they get outed for faking it. I saw that one earlier today too.
Yeah. I saw that. There's so many that, you know, but again, we go in these groups and you know what I tell people too, the one thing that they forget is if I say, okay, that's not an orb, it's a piece of dust or a bug or whatever, they come in and they start going crazy. Like, you don't understand. I had this experience. I felt something. And I try to explain to them what you experienced is completely separate from what you captured. You can experience stuff way easier than capturing it on film. And just because you felt something and the dust flew by the screen doesn't mean it's a ghost, you know? So that's totally separate. And they can't grasp when you say that. They just keep attacking you for, I had this experience and I know what I'm experiencing. And, you know, again, you probably did, but didn't capture it. I wish I captured some of the stuff that I've seen.
It's sad. It's sad. We mock what we don't understand. You know, I've always said that. It's, you know, I don't mind a healthy debate as long as people are respectful. It's, you know, and you just agree to disagree at the end of the day, and that's fine. You know, but like you said, the people that attack one another, especially in a public setting like Facebook or one of those platforms, I said, don't engage in that because nobody wins those arguments. Even if you know you're right and you have the most experience. You know, if you come out and say, well, yeah, I've been doing it, I'm right. You know, now people say, oh, you have an ego.
Right.
I'm like, you know, look, I'd say in my humble opinion, this is what I think. If you agree, disagree, that's up to you. That's your prerogative. But I'm not going to argue with you about it.
See, Stephanie just said it there. What happened with her was the person, or it was a girl, she said that it can't be dust because dust doesn't blow around. It just falls to the ground. And Stephanie came in and explained how it doesn't fall to the ground, that it's statically charged and it flies around. And then she started going off on her.
Stephanie's right. If you look at a sunbeam and you see the dust in the sunbeam, it doesn't have a trajectory. It just kind of, and you blow into it, it just scatters. It floats around. You know, it just floats around. I like this.
We're told by people that, no, there was no airflow in that room at the time. It's like, is it a sealed lab? what is it? There's
always going to be airflow from somewhere.
Yeah, you have a door. You know, I mean, you know, pointless sometimes.
It is, and I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of these. I don't want to say arguments, but you know, conversations with people at Fantasm.
Oh
We
yeah.
did last year, I remember.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but look, healthy debates are great, but just please.
Yeah,
be
I
respectful.
encourage.
Otherwise, I'm just gonna ignore you.
Yeah, when some people freak out in there and they're like, "I'm never posting here again," I go, "No, no, no.
Well,
I
then no.
encourage you to post again and ask questions, but there's no need to get crazy about it. Ask a question. If you don't like the answer, okay, don't like the answer. But all they like you said, all they're going to do is just look for validation. So, yeah,
You know what? And if that's how you are, that's fine. But like
right,
I said, don't lower your standards and start calling people names and insulting people. You know, especially someone like yourself or Heather or myself who has been around for a while and have done the
right.
work and the investigations the learning process. I mean, you guys learn differently than I did. You know, and you
Before
guys,
TV,
Heather and I talk all the time about this. Heather has theories that I may disagree with, or maybe say, well, yeah, I never heard of it that way before. That's a good point. Let me think about that.
right?
A rational person would do that.
Sure,
Irrational people are like, that's BS. That can't be true. No, this is it. I'm right. You're wrong.
right.
You know, and that I tell you, Ed Warren, God love him. Ed had a temper, and I never I never was on the receiving end of it. Thank God for that. But Ed had a temper, and people, if you guys ever watched that, remember Sally Jesse Raphael
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
show? It's on YouTube. Sally Jesse Raphael show regarding the Snedeker home in Southern Connecticut, which is about 2 towns over from me.
Right.
And they were on the Sally Jesse Raphael show, and Ed, I know they strategically put him next to this guy. I think his name is Joe Nickel. He was a skeptic, American Skeptical Society, and who didn't believe in any of this. But that infuriated Ed. And they were sitting next to each other, and Ed's looking at him, pointing, screaming at the guy. And I'm like, years later, as I'm watching, I'm like, Ed, why would he act like that? The guy doesn't believe in this. He doesn't agree. No amount of evidence that you show him is gonna sway him.
Yeah.
No, and for the believers, no amount of evidence is necessary.
Right.
I always say to my audience is they say, look, this may be hard for you to believe, but just have an open mind about it. Is it possible that this happened or that this is true? Because
Right.
I'll just say, well, how are you possible? How are you sitting in that chair right now in front of me? How'd you get here? We all may have different beliefs on that, but you didn't just poof and you're here. You came from somewhere. That's why I try to explain it that way. But I don't get. I mean, he would get mad, and they had an exorcist, a priest who was an exorcist, Father A. He called him, and I remember this guy saying to him something to the effect, "Is like, well, give us the priest's name then. If you're not lying, you're telling the truth. Give us the priest's name." And Ed turned to me and goes, "Father A is the name I give you." You guys, you got to watch it. I can't do it justice. I think Chris was even on that as a younger man. This is back in like the early 90s. But it's the Sally Jesse Raphael show, the Carmen and Al Snedeker case.
I'll have to check that out. I think we lost Heather.
John Zaffis and Chris were involved. I wasn't involved in that case because I was a newbie, and this happened around about 1988. Oh, did we lose Heather?
Right.
Maybe she's having storms.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would encourage anybody that's listening, if you're interested, to Google that, because it's on YouTube. You can see it. Every once in a while, I watch it again, and then you got the neighbors. They had a bunch of neighbors there. I think most of the neighbors like in the audience, but the neighbors would stand up and say, "Well, I've lived here for 40 years, right across the street, and I don't believe any of this ever happened. I never." And then Carmen, who I know very well, Carmen would get up and say, "You didn't live there. You didn't live what we went through." And like, oh, you're just making it up, or none of this. No, we never heard anything about stuff like this until you fell behind on your rent. And I'm like, no. I mean, I wasn't involved directly with the case, but I believe that it happened because I trust the people that were there. Ed and Lorraine were there. Chris was there. John Zaffis, my friend John, was there. They lived with the family. Chris and John lived there for like 9 weeks. They basically moved in with the family.
Right.
And the bed would shake. Chris will tell you. He was laughing. He thought it was funny. The bed would levitate and shake, and but like I said, we mock what we don't understand. So because you didn't physically witness this and you live next door, or you're lying, you're making this up.
Right.
I'm like, those are insightful words. It's like, all right, is it possible? I didn't live there. I wasn't in the house experiencing this. where people were physically and sexually attacked by these unseen forces. But you know the story about the house, though, right? It was a funeral home.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was said or believed to be, because I can't confirm this, that the home, it was a funeral home. That's true, but
Right.
it was believed that necrophilia was performed there, which is disgusting.
All right.
People don't know what necrophilia is. It's having sex with dead bodies.
Yeah.
And I remember someone telling me, I'm not sure if it's John or not, but one of the negative spirits, dare I say the word demon, but said to him, "Do you know what they did to us here?" Very scary, frightening case, but it was very real. And the Sally Jesse show, for believers and skeptics alike, I would highly recommend. Yes, Nicole, that is The Haunting in Connecticut.
And
That was
just
on Discovery Channel some years ago.
not to interrupt, but Heather said she lost internet, so I
Oh,
guess she'll be back if it comes back on.
I hope she makes it back, because if you leave me unsupervised, we're all going to hell.
That's the end of the show.
Yeah, but anyway, so I would be interested maybe in a future show if our audience and yourself, Bill, watch that program and let me know what you think. Also on YouTube, it was done by the Discovery Channel. I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 2005. It might have been a little earlier, but it was called A Haunting in Connecticut, and they actually filmed the outside of the house. Usually when they do reenactments, they just show some random house.
Right,
That was
right.
the actual house, because I drive by it all the time. It's literally 15, 20 minutes down the road from me, and it's across the street from a cemetery. It was a funeral home, and then 2 doors down there used to be a monuments place where they sold monuments in the cemetery. Obviously convenient, right across the street. But that was a very harrowing case, and there was a book written about it called In a Dark Place. Have you ever heard of that book?
Yep. Yeah,
I used to have one of the original paperback copies, and many years ago, I lent it to my ex-brother-in-law, and I never saw it again. I have one of the newer copies, the re-releases, that was signed by Lorraine to me, but I wish I still had that paper. I found it in the Expect discount store for like $1, and I couldn't believe it, because you probably couldn't find one today unless you got it off eBay or something.
I'm pretty sure I have it on the audio books.
Yeah, I mean, just to listen to that case, because I remember Ed lecturing on it, and I had only been with them about 2 years. I think it was 1988 when that happened. It was mid to late 80s, right around the time I joined them. But Hi, Heather.
Hey, sorry. I'm having to log in from my phone because I've completely lost internet on the computer.
Jeez.
Well, I'm glad you made it back, because I need somebody to rein me in. Okay. I get all excited.
Or else me and Joe will be going till about 4 a.m.
Oh, you guys will have to keep an eye on the comments, because I can't see them on the app on Facebook.
Oh yeah, okay. I gotta look at them. I got mine on Amazon. Yeah, you can get the book. It's not the original one, but it's the reprint, and it's bigger. It's a bigger one. We're talking about the book In a Dark Place, Heather, which is the case of Carmen and Al Snedeker from Southington, Connecticut. But Discovery Channel has a good documentary. It's probably well done. It's like 2 hours long. I haven't seen it in many years, but I may watch it. Let me turn the TV on.
I see a couple questions here. I see somebody asking, have any of you three ever seen a ghost? You guys want to go on that one?
I have.
Yeah. I've seen several. Yeah. It's like, which one do we talk about?
Yeah, it's not common. It's not like you see them every time you go somewhere, but I have seen some. I've seen one. The one had nothing to do with an investigation. It was just a freak event of my own, and one of the things that really made me believe a lot, and when I was learning, it was something I don't know, but I've talked about that before. I don't know if you guys have something you guys want to say.
I know when we used to investigate a museum quite often, that was where we've seen the most. And like, I saw one standing behind Brent. He was the spirit was bigger than he was, and Brent's not a little guy. And sorry, I'm restarting my computer, so I've lost my light. And it was like the spirit was waving his hand, like trying to get my attention from behind him. And then at the same location, I also saw 3 apparitions, all dressed in old FLDS clothing, because it used to be an old Mormon fort. And it was 2 women and 1 male that were walking back and forth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The one I always talk about, like I said, it was one before. It wasn't on an investigation. It was at it was in high school. It was my senior year, and we were at a party at a friend's house, and they had a very old house I think it was the oldest house in our city in New Jersey.
Mhm.
And her parents were away. There was a little bit of a party, and I always tell everybody I was not drinking or smoking or doing anything at this party because I was actually babysitting somebody there because they were completely out of control. So I couldn't. I had to maintain myself. But after everybody left, there was I think it was 4 or 5 of us that stayed over, and we were all just crashed in one room. Everybody was pretty much passed out. It was late at night. I was awake because I hadn't been drinking. So I got up and I left the room to go walk down to the bathroom. And it was a big house. It was a long hallway. And, I just turned out of the room and I kind of looked up, and I was not scared, but I was dead stopped in my tracks because it was so detailed. It was an old guy in overalls and like a hat. He looked like a farmer, and I always say it seemed like I was staring at him for 10 minutes, but it was probably about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And he kind of looked at me. He kind of nodded his head, and he turned and he walked right through the door into the other room. And then I stood there for probably about 10 more minutes trying to figure out what just happened. And I went back in the room, and I woke up my friend who lived there. And I was like, hey, I said, anybody else in this house? And she's like, no. I said, your parents, could they come home early, or you have like any kind of relatives, grandparents or uncles or anything staying here? And she's like, no. She goes, did you see somebody? And I'm like, well, kind of. And she goes, was it the old guy in the overalls? And I was like, what? I had never heard these stories before. She never told anybody. I had never heard these stories. And she was explaining that he's there all the time. He doesn't bother anybody. They were scared at first because her mother woke up one night by him pulling her off the bed. She woke up because she fell on the floor, and she looked up and she got real frightened. And then she heard a noise downstairs. So she turned and he was gone. So she called the police because she didn't know what was going on. Cops showed up and somebody was breaking in the house. So they swear that he woke her up to let her know what was going on. So, I mean, those are things that, stick with you for a long time. I could remember that like it was yesterday.
I think Joe fell asleep.
No, I'm here. I was looking at my notes.
He's actually quite. You have notes for the show?
Huh?
You have notes for the show?
Yeah, I have notes.
Oh.
Notes.
There's more than I do.
I have no. Well, I had to keep myself on task.
And yet you still haven't written your outline.
Yeah, I started it. I'm gonna work on getting that voice recognition thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, in all seriousness, when I write, I dictate better than because I'm sitting there writing. I'm like, oh, geez, I just had something I wanted to say, and how I perfectly wanted to say it, and I forget.
It's age.
So I would rather sit and dictate or into the computer what I want to say, but I'm just afraid my book, when it's finished, is going to be like freaking War and Peace. Nobody's going to want it because it's going to be too long. Maybe I'm going to come out in segments. Joe, Franke, the early years.
Write one book for each decade.
Then the dinosaurs came. Then Joe was born. I don't know. Well, it's going to happen, but Heather's been helping me because I need someone to light a fire under my butt and get this book done.
I'm working on mine too. I want it done soon.
Life just gets in the way.
You guys are slacking. I'm working on 2 at the same time.
Yeah, I know. Stop rubbing it in.
I did that first.
Now. My God.
That's what I was doing.
Catch up, will you, people?
I got 2 more I got to write before the end of the year.
Give me some cat balls for Christmas.
Well, see, that's what I was doing originally. I was working on 2. And then I said, you know what? I need to work on this other one first. It's more important. And I put those aside. They're like half done. So now I'm on the other one. I'm almost done. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I should. Yeah, I got to get my butt moving. I talked to Heather last week. I'm like, I promise you, I'm going to start my outline. So I didn't break my promise. I started it, and but seriously, it's got
Joe's outline, and that's all that's done.
Hey, that's a start. And I put the date on it too.
Yoo-hoo.
I promise I will get it done. I got to do it before I expire. I say that like I'm a loaf of bread. Oh, am I being too loud? Sorry.
You're terrible, Joe.
My beautiful bride is standing there saying I'm being too loud.
Oh.
I gotta be quiet.
Sorry, Mom.
I gotta get out of jail. No, she's just going to bed, so.
Joe got in trouble.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing. You should see, look, I'll show you the lashes I got the other night. I'm always in trouble. But I'm just so adorable. I don't stay in trouble. No, it just cost me.
Yeah.
What's the name of that perfume you wanted? You going to Kohl's? Okay, here's a checkbook. What else are we going to talk about? What other questions we got here? What's the most startling paranormal experiences you've had?
Oh, Jesus.
What about you, Bill?
Like I always say, every one of the demonic cases I was on, anything with that is always terrifying, to be honest. Well, you know what it is? Like I say, you don't, with something like that, you just don't know what's going to happen. Where if you're on a case and maybe there's a ghost in there, a spirit, something, you're not really scared of that. Where if you're pulled into a demonic case, you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the things I've seen on them, I never would have expected in my life. So really anything with that. I've seen people attacked. I've seen things fly across the room. I've seen so many things that you never forget.
So let's go with that, Bill. Seriously, though, have you been attacked physically on a case that might have been demonic?
I've never been attacked.
I have, but I just wonder if you guys have.
Kind of. I've never been attacked where I had physical scratches on me. I've had bruises. I've been pushed to the floor. I didn't get thrown across the room as far as you, but I got knocked down to the floor. I've had things thrown at me, but I wouldn't say attacked like the guy that was standing next to me on one of the cases that got 3 scratches from his neck to his spine, and why I didn't get it, I don't know to this day. Still, I research stuff like that because I had a lot of questions after I saw some of that stuff, but never attacked bad enough that I can say hey, I was in a lot of trouble, luckily.
How about you, Heather?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. It's the one that I talk about a lot where I was cleansing the home and she had this big picture window. I still don't understand why people put picture windows over bathtubs, but there was a big picture window over her bathtub and I was sprinkling cascarilla across it for her to seal it off. And it literally felt like something swept my feet up from underneath me. And I ended up flying in the air and landing on my knees. And I actually even got up and I tried to force myself to slip and fall, thinking I might, not paying attention, I might have slipped in the tub, but there was no way I could have done it with the shoes I was wearing. And it was just really weird. And me being the mom, I stood up and started yelling at that thing like it was a 2-year-old child that got in trouble. And next thing you know, the whole house got brighter. And it was the weirdest thing. Everybody's like, oh, the house got brighter. And they came up to see how I was doing because, of course, they heard a thud upstairs, and I'm the only one upstairs.
Yeah, people need to be careful. When I remember Ed taught us religious provocation, and I mean everybody has their own methods, but I learned this in the Catholic tradition. To use religious items, holy blessed items as provocation if you believe you've got something unholy, and believe you me, it will piss them off. And that's one of the cases. The most harrowing case was that time where I was thrown across. And I wasn't thrown. It was mostly I was pulled. across the room. And I went by across the room, I'm talking 10 to 12 feet, I would estimate. And, you know, at the time, I was probably 350 pounds. You know, I was in my mid-20s, you know, I could bench press a train. I was a big, strong guy. It don't mean nothing. It don't mean anything. I got to avoid the double negative there. That doesn't mean anything. Physical size and strength, I've always said, has very little to do. Okay, you need to be strong spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. I mean, just think about it for a second. For those who are watching, if something happened like that happened to you, totally unexpected, you know, how do you think you would react? I mean, you can only guess how you would react. You've got some unseen force, something that's you can't see it, it's intangible, you can't touch it, and you don't know where the attack is coming from. Like the case in what was that movie based on a true story? The Entity. If you guys know. Where she was just in her bedroom doing her makeup and she got slapped right across the face, thrown back up on the bed and basically raped by this, you know, unseen force. That must have been terrifying. And that really happened to that woman. I don't know exactly if it happened like the movie showed it, but, you know, so people were always, well, weren't you scared? I'm like, yeah, I was scared. I was probably 22 years old and I'm just a guy. I'm just a mortal human being. I don't have a big S on the back of my shirt. You know, I was scared, but I think at the time I was more angry. And I got up and I remember I was pissed. And I'm like, mother, you know, I was saying some pretty bad words. And I'm like, how cowardly. I'm like, show yourself, you know, which I don't recommend people doing. Don't ever challenge the demonic because it'll come for you. And there's nothing you can do about it. Physically, you can't fight something like that. It was terrifying, but I've been punched, scratched, bitten, bruised, you know, through the years. But I always say, when you do this type of work, you know, the analogy I like to use is you take a stick and you poke a tiger in the eye and you're poking him through the cage. Eventually, that tiger is going to take a swat at you. It's not going to stand there and take it. So if you're using religious provocation, and you're saying, I command you in the name of Jesus Christ, okay, you don't say, I command you, because who the hell am I? I'm just a guy. But if I'm invoking the name of God, you know, it's like, look, based on your religious beliefs, you know, if you believe that you have that power, because, hey, that's why I'm not really scared. Because I'm like, look, I got God in my corner. He made you too. You can't beat me. You can't defeat me. You can beat me up. But the only way you're going to win is if by my own free will, I give in to you. And that's where people run into trouble. They get beat down psychologically, emotionally, physically maybe, and they just give up. And they give their soul over to these things. And now you get someone who gets possessed.
Yeah, when I'm doing lectures and panels and stuff, and I get a lot of times people ask about things with, you know, demonic and spirits and how you tell the difference and this and that. And I was trained the same way. You know, with religious provocation. And I tried to explain to them, I said, you got to understand that a spirit, you know, sage is not going to do anything to them. They're not going to, you know, not a spirit, a demon. A sage isn't going to do anything to them. No. They may not come out and say anything. So religious provocation is the only thing to bring it out to know truly if it's possible, you know, if it's possibly demonic in there. The problem is, I tell them, you got to know what to do once you call it out, because you go in there and you pull out a cross or you pull out some holy water and you, who is here? And you know, come out and, you know, show yourself, whatever. And it comes out. Now what? You're screwed if you don't know what to do or how to handle it. I mean, you shouldn't do that unless you have somebody there that knows what to do.
And that's what I say. And it's not my intention to upset people or would-be investigators, but Ed used to say the investigators, and this is back when he was alive, that a lot of the investigators, they may mean well and they may have the best interests at heart, but they don't know yet how to do it, because they'll go in with their equipment or whatever and they'll provoke something, and if they get a response, now what do you do?
Yeah.
Okay. And now the difference is you're not in an abandoned factory or an abandoned church or something. You're in someone's home. Someone that's contacted you because they are legitimately frightened because of the affliction they be having, may or may not be having. Okay. My dealings with a lot of people is they may not have a paranormal issue. However,
Mhm.
I don't believe they're making it up. I believe that it's very real in their mind. So that's why you got to do a lot of digging and say, okay, do you watch these TV shows or these movies? And oh yeah, I watch them all. So now the
Right.
seed's planted. It's you got a lot of psychosomatic stuff going on there.
Yeah.
But then you get people that may dabble in the occult and whatever your beliefs are there. But you're asking for trouble. You're opening doors, or as we call them, doorways, using various means of divination, which can be okay if you know what you're doing and you're grounded properly and stuff like that. But most people don't investigate your own house if you feel you have something.
Don't do it.
But moreover, I'm like, well, why do you feel you have a spirit here? Why do you feel your house is haunted? And you gotta, as you guys know, you gotta ask a million questions, and every question leads to 10 more. But a lot of the groups out there today that I've noticed, they don't ask the right questions. They just say, "Oh, you got a ghost? Okay, can I come over next Saturday night with my crew and all my equipment?" And say, "Okay, you do that, and something happens."
Right.
And then I hear stories about, this group came in my home and something happened and they ran out of here. And
A
now
lot of my cases.
no pun intended. Well, yeah, I mean, and then they'll call, and then I'll get contacted, or one of us will, and they'll say, "I don't know, they ran out of here, and now we're really scared because the people that we called for help and entrusted to help us got scared and ran out of here."
And they believe them. Even if it was nothing there, they now believe them because somebody came in and told them that. And
it drives me crazy. It just
yeah,
grinds my gears, because usually it's something that could be explained naturally, or rather than supernaturally. But I'm just hearing the stories. So what I'll try to do in some cases is I'll try to reach out to the group or the team that was there, and then I'll judge by if they'll talk to me. Maybe there's something to it. But if they have a standoffish attitude, like, "Well, this is our case," I'm like, "Well, if it's your case, why aren't you helping them?" I've been called in to try to help them, but you were there. You supposedly experienced something that scared you out of there. "Oh, that's not what happened." I'm like, "Really? Okay, then let me hear your side of the story." I said, "But if your intention was really to help this family or this person, help me help them, because I need information from you." Some people will be very forthcoming and say, "Joe, I got in over my head. This is what happened, and we got upset." And I'm like, "Thank you for your honesty," but you'll get people that'll say, "Well, this is our case. I'm not sharing any of my evidence with you." I'm like, "Okay, I know what you're up to. God bless you." Sorry, I get on my soapbox and I get ranty.
Well, no,
You're just laughing at me. I do. I get so pissed.
Well, that's the thing. People have to remember there are two sides to ghost hunting, if you want to call it that. You have ghost hunters, who are people who do a lot of public stuff and all that. And then you have paranormal investigators, who are the ones that are more into residential cases. If you want to learn about ghost hunting, go out and do all that ridiculous stuff and have fun at the local cemetery or whatever. But if you're going to go into somebody's house, no more than the paranormal. Most of people on my team and Heather and Joe, we know about I'm an IT guy during the day, but I work at a psychiatric drug and alcohol treatment facility for 10 years. I know about psychiatric illness. I know about addiction. We know about natural causes. We study metaphysics and so many different things that can help determine what's real. Because if you go into a person's home, you're dealing with real lives, not just your own. And you need to be very, very cautious on what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You can harm them. It can harm you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful what you tell them, because trying to talk them back off the ledge after you've already said you have a demon in your house, you need to call a priest.
Yeah.
This house needs to be exorcised. Well, you don't exorcise a house. You exorcise a person. So these right away, just by the answers they give them, you can tell them how inexperienced they are, and that inexperience can cause more damage to yourself and to your client.
Yeah, I tell people all the time.
We try to educate people on this, and the responsible people that want to learn will listen to people like us.
I tell them all the time. I say, you have no idea what kind of damage you can do going into a home and telling somebody that they have a ghost or a demon, and maybe that person is schizophrenic and you don't know it. they are now, because they are hearing those voices for real in their head, and now they believe it's something evil that's going to harm them, and they're going to be 10 times worse than they were. It is dangerous.
Yep. Yeah. Or what was that one case just before I left the foundation where they had a whole bunch of photos from the previous team and they all looked like the photos were fake, with that little light streak in every room?
And I knew exactly who they were, and we pulled up their site and saw all the same photos from the past 20 years, the same orbs in their photos.
Yeah, either they had a glitch in their camera that they didn't know about, or they were going in and faking it.
I would have to say it was fake, because I mean, or they had some kind of really special camera, because those things were like, a lot that I've never seen before, but they were so obvious. And yeah. And it's hard to convince a person that has either been told by another team or watches way too much television that it's not something, because sometimes they do tend to look at people that are on the TV all the time as, I don't know, I know you all don't like the terms, but as the experts. They look like, oh, well, they're on TV every week, so they must be the experts. And I'm not saying anything against them, but they're more for entertainment. So, understand when we go in and we do this. I've done 500-600 homes. I have no idea now how many. Never charged a penny for one of them. And that's why we do it, to help people.
Right.
Well,
nothing wrong with being on TV, but I've been on it.
There's nothing wrong with that. If your intention is for entertainment purposes, some of these shows are very well done. I'll admit.
Yeah.
That. Although I don't watch them, but don't watch TV and think of that as education. And that's what a lot of these people do. They'll say, well, I'll buy some of that equipment that Zach's using or whoever, and then those people that are on the shows, they could be on one episode of a Travel Channel show and now they're the expert and they're a celebrity. And I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with those terms.
You mean my being on Zach's show doesn't make me an expert?
Joe always gets us somehow shirts and
come on.
Keep sticking that foot in your mouth, Joe.
We've been on shows and I know.
It's just that a lot of people out there, seriously, they watch the television shows and that's their form of training. Now, people say, well, Joe, how do I get the training? It's like, well, find a reputable group in your area and ask if you can join and learn the right way. But people aren't willing, in our case, 37 years, 35 years. People are not willing to put in the time. They want instant fame and notoriety. It's all about the bloated ego. And that's one thing I have a huge problem is what has this turned into? This wasn't like this 30, 40 years ago.
No, not at all.
For two reasons, and I always say this, and you guys I'm sure will agree, to help people and to help educate people. That's all I do this for. I've never made any money at this. I'm actually in hock because of it. You can ask my wife, because we don't charge people. We ask for our expenses to be covered, but how many of the people you help say, I can't afford to pay your expenses? Well, I'm not going to say, well, then I'm not coming. It comes out of our own pockets because we want to help people with whatever may or may not be a problem. But either way, we're helping them. If it's a psychological issue, maybe we can help guide them to getting help. Seeing a doctor or psychiatrist or whatever, or maybe it's just talking them back off the ledge, saying, maybe you should stop. I tell people all the time, stop watching these TV shows. You're addicted to them, and it's getting in your head, and you're self-manifesting this stuff that's really not here.
Right.
And then they start, again, like I said before, they start investigating their own house, and of course, you're going to find something because you want to find something.
And let me, like you were saying, for somebody who wants to learn, sure. I mean, it's fine if you learned off of TV and you want to get into it. That I support it, but
sure,
go look for a team, but look for one that has at least one person that has been doing this since before paranormal TV started, because that way you have somebody that learned a different way.
My ghost just went off, so I must have a ghost here. No, really, it's motion activated, so I must have something here.
The other thing too I'm noticing is like we were talking about people not wanting to put in the time, is anytime one of our documentaries drop, one of my books comes out, or I'm on a different show, I get so many emails from people saying, are you taking new members on your team? And we're not at this time, and we probably won't, because we like our little 3-member team that we have. But when you go and look at these people and you look at their timeline, in like the last year, they've announced that they've joined 5 different teams.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's like they jump from team to team, whichever one they think is going to get them the success that they can get right now.
That's true.
And they go after those that are, doing stuff.
That's why my application is like a book.
Mm-hmm.
If you fill it out, I know you're kind of serious, but I don't. I used to have like 5, 6 people on my team for a long time, and now I just opened it up recently and brought on so many amazing people. But we're good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not. We
mean,
got enough people. I got 20 people now in 3 different states. So
I want to, I've been asked many times, could you do some classes? And Heather and I talked about it too, but it's like, yeah, we could, but that's a process too. You can't just, it's something you got to think about and develop. And I'm not opposed to it.
And then they get upset when you want to charge for the class.
Well, I mean, because our time is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where we make any money in this field is through books and lectures. Lecture at colleges or even local libraries. I do a lot of libraries in my home state here, and I charge a modest fee. And I tell you, I've had libraries that don't have big budgets to some of the smaller towns, and like, well, geez, Joe, we can't pay that. Would you accept something less? I said, what can you do? And I'm like, would you take $100? I'm like, absolutely. It's not. Yeah, I need money like everybody else, but I don't do it for the money. That's not my driving factor.
Look, how much money have each one of us spent on books and classes and education and thousands? So I mean, I didn't just get it for free, all of it.
I mean, you guys have taken college courses on this. I haven't, but I'm old school. I guess I always will be. I learned. I was fortunate to have Ed and Lorraine as my mentors. And they taught me a lot. Now as I'm older and wiser, I can think for myself, and I have my own theories on things. I didn't necessarily agree with everything that they taught me.
Right.
Back then, I didn't know better. But now, I'm about the age now that the Warrens were when I met them. They were 58 to 60 years old. I'm 55, but I know I don't look it though. Anyway, my wife says she has 4 children. I have 3. But seriously, it may be harder to find someone to mentor you, but there are people out there. There's a lot of people out there that do good work, but you have to be in it for the right reasons. And if you are one of those people that, like Heather said, a timeline. Yeah, well, within a year, I want to be on TV, and I want to have my own show. And it's easier now, I guess, because of social media and YouTube. You can have a YouTube channel, and you can become famous. Look at Justin Bieber. Hey, hey. I mean, but back in the day, we didn't have that.
I have no problem doing the shows as long as it's something. I'm not going to go on a show and go against my ethics and morals. That I won't do. But the shows I was on talking about what I know and what it was, the documentary on Discovery and everything. It's different. It wasn't like I was on there acting. I was on there talking. I have no problem. I would have no problem being on any show like that. But again, I won't go against. I'm not going to go on there and agree. Oh yeah, that fake thing is real, and I'm not going to jump and scream and
Well, I remember the show. One of those shows that was offered to me 20 years ago, I declined, respectfully, of course, because my children were very young then too, and it would have been a leap. God knows, no one knew what the show would grow into today. But and do I have any regrets? No. I always say the only 2 things I have going for me are my name and my integrity, and neither one of them are for sale. I'm not. I have to. My father used to taught me. He used to have a saying. I have to wake up in the morning and look myself in the mirror, and I have to like what I see. Okay, so you don't sell yourself out for any amount of money. It's not worth it.
Right.
And you have your reputation, and if you are accused, I mean, even if you're accused of fraudulent activity or faking evidence or whatever, once your credibility is gone, you'll never get it back.
Right.
And fortunately, I don't think that's happened to any one of us, and probably never will. But going back to the story I told you earlier about the guy who accused me basically of doctoring a photograph. I'm like, why would I do that and risk my integrity? Because
Right.
if that was real and I really did that and it got out in the media, you guys probably never would have met me. My name would have been mud a long time ago.
Mhm.
Like, why do that? Anybody can be walking through a dusty basement and say, oh, something just touched me. Something just brushed by me. I mean, come on. You know, if you really feel it happened, okay. But how many times do you believe that?
Mhm.
Well, there's so many. How many YouTube shows have you seen where the title is, attacked by demonic, a demon, watched a
know what-
live demon? I mean, come on now. I mean,
Because
it's,
that's sensationalizing it, and that's what
yeah,
put butts in the seats. That's what sells tickets. It all equates to this,
of course,
to money. All
it's
right, and
entertainment.
you know
I,
what? If you just Chris and I talk about this a lot. If the movies like the Conjuring films were based on, the cases rather, the Conjuring films were based on, if they just told the real story and Hollywood didn't take all these liberties with it and add all this sensationalism and these special effects. Yeah, of course that's what makes it scarier and stuff. But the real story is more fascinating and probably much more scarier if you just told what
yeah,
really happened.
but
You
that's
know?
for us. That's to us. We would believe that. The problem is they in order to really keep an audience,
I
they
know.
need drama.
Mhm.
Without drama, they won't keep the show. And that,
Drama.
I don't even blame people on the show. Sometimes it's more the producers, but
Oh, yeah.
again, and it's fine because I don't look bad at them. They're doing what they're supposed to. They're entertaining. That's what it is. It's just that a lot of people out there don't realize that they're entertaining. That's the
Right, but
problem we run
your name
into.
is on it, though. You got a producer
Right.
fresh out of college. This has happened to me. They'll say, well, this is what we want you to do. This is what we want you to say. This is where we want you to stand. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I said, you're going to have to allow me to do what I do or there's no deal. I mean, I'm not going to be directed. I mean, and basically told what to say and make stuff up.
Right, exactly.
To make the show much more palatable and interesting. I won't do that. I'm sure you guys agree with me.
No.
But a
That
lot
I
of
wouldn't
people will. And eventually you're the one that, if you're the on-screen talent, people are looking at you. Even though you're taking direction from somebody off camera. I just, that's what I mean about integrity. I won't do that. And if people want to do that, hey, to each his own. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to come down on you for it, but I just won't do it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I said. I said I don't. You people ask me about the shows. I watch them myself. I enjoy them. They're fun. They're entertaining.
Yeah.
But know the difference. That's all.
Yeah, I look at Scott's message here. I had Andrea Perrin. Yeah, Andrea she lived in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea's a friend of mine, and John, who's a friend of hers. Actually, they were just in a Paracon in Ohio, I think, recently that I think Kimberly went to. But yeah, those are the people I would listen to because they tell the true story. John, to hear John and or Chris tell the story about the Snedeker home, I wasn't there. I know the story from the Warrens and from them, but I wasn't there. They were there. I mean, I'm always fascinated to hear about and Maurice Theriault case. I wasn't there either.
I think both of those are going to be talked about at Phantasm.
Yep.
in some of the panels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know the story well, but it was only as it was told to me by the people that were there. But if you want to hear it firsthand, listen to one of those gentlemen talk about it because they actually lived with the families.
Yeah.
So,
and there's going to be, just so everybody knows, we'll quickly go on Phantasm here, maybe a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're all going to be there as guests. Also, Connie from my team has her own table with us for her the stuff she does with her spiritual center and all that. So she's going to have panels on her own. Heather's going to have panels on her own. Chris and Joe are going to have panels. I have panels with my team, and we have panels all together. A lot of us are all mixed in, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to come and listen to over those 3 days. Every day we will definitely you'll have a bunch of panels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and
yeah,
I love when we're on the dais and people have the opportunity to ask us questions. We're going to give you a straight answer. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat things, and if we don't know the answer, we'll say, "Geez, I'm not really sure."
Yeah.
This is what I
might not like our answer.
Hypothesize. If you don't like our answer, I just ask to please just respect it. And respect.
Hey, I don't want to say who it was, but last year, one of our question and answer panels turned into a pretty amazing little session there with somebody who came up and let some things out and talked, and we were talking to them. It was a pretty impressive thing that happened. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Sometimes you never know. Just talking there makes somebody come up and talk about what they're going through and how it's affecting them and everything.
And it wasn't easy for that person to do that. I would
absolutely not.
It too.
I think we were all shocked.
Yep. Yeah. And was that the panel that you and I were trying not to laugh because Annabelle kept peeking her head through the door?
Yeah.
It's like the topic got very serious, and then there's Annabelle peeking in the door.
I forget their name. I think they're going to be there again this year.
Tammy and her husband.
Yeah, I think they.
No, they're not going to be there, but they are set up because she made my doll for me, my Annabelle doll. So I'm going to have to give it to one of you guys maybe to ship up for me because I won't be able to bring it on the plane. I'll probably be kicked off. She builds the Annabelle doll from the movie, not this one.
Right.
Not the Raggedy Ann doll, but
they make like the props.
Tammy and her husband. I talked to her on Facebook probably once a week or Messenger, and she said that due to some circumstances, they're not going to be able to have a booth there this year, but they are going to come up to have dinner with us.
Oh, okay, great.
At least one of the nights because they live, I think, in Ocala. Is that close?
Right. But they were killing us because we're in the panel, we're up at this table, and everything was getting very serious. And she kept taking her Annabelle doll and just peeking it in the doorway because she didn't know what was going on. And we keep seeing this popping out from the back doorway. And you're trying not to laugh because there's a whole serious event going on here. And that was good.
And the woman does phenomenal work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Annabelle dolls that she makes, and she also did Pennywise, the clown from what was it, Poltergeist, and they look exactly like the dolls. And so she made a special one. She said for me, which I really appreciate, but it takes her time.
Yeah,
a lot of time to build these things by hand, and she paints them and everything, and she unbelievable work.
I would actually like one, but if my wife's still listening, she would kill me probably. She just doesn't like the dolls at all. I have enough.
Well, she won't let me bring this thing upstairs. She's like, I'm not coming down there. Get that doll out of here.
I got Robert, and I have Annabelle back there too. You can't see mine; they're in the case, and she hates both of them.
I want a Robert one. I'm going to ask her. Maybe she can make me one of those next year. I want to go see him, Bill. You're still working on that, right?
Yeah. We go see him.
I want to give him a hug.
He's in glass. He's in glass. Can't hug him.
Well, maybe.
That won't
wait. I've been seeing him. I've seen him many times over many years. I'm very respectful. Don't go in there with me and cause a problem with me.
I won't. I'll be respectful. I'll say, Robert, can I give you a hug?
Yeah. See Joe giving him the finger on the way out. I don't need that.
Well, I'm not going to tempt fate. I'm not going to be disrespectful. Not so much to the doll, but to you and people with me. But
go up to the glass like a fish tank and ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding,
yeah.
ding, ding.
Let me ask you guys this question: do you really, truly believe that if people are disrespectful, that they will have bad things happen to them?
Well, I mean, even David Sloan, who's the doll tender there, he'll tell you that, there's really no proof of it. It's a big thing, that has been known. And the thing is, could people have coincidence, whatever, but there's been so much on it. Like I said, honestly, when almost every panel I do, and I talk about him a lot, there is always at least one person who has their own story. And like I said, we got one guy that came to a library show, and at the end he came up and he was talking to us and he was telling us how we need to tell people that this is really dangerous and you should not do anything wrong. And we found out that he went down there. His wife was laughing, didn't think it, you know, it was real. It was making fun of him, doing whatever. And they left. They got into a car accident on the way home, and she got killed. And is it coincidence? Probably. But how do we know? And do you want to test that? I mean, I don't know.
Is it possible?
He believed it.
Mm-hmm.
He believed it, and you know, who knows? But
there's far too many stories for it to be a coincidence.
Oh, tens of
so
thousands.
If you want to tempt fate? I wouldn't. I mean,
right.
I'm a big jokester, but I wouldn't do that.
I didn't. No way. We've been doing this long enough to know there are things that you don't want to test.
Yeah, I mean, you know, don't play with fire.
Yeah.
You know, it's not worth it. But I would love to have the opportunity to at least visit the museum and see it.
I'm putting it together. I'm just trying to find out when we could go.
Yeah, no worries. I'm patient. I just I would like, you know, because for everybody that's listening, Bill and Heather, we would like to do some lecturing in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Would like to do maybe some colleges, community colleges, or what have you. Just trying to get to that jumping off point. Like, where do we start? Do we, you know, do we contact them ourselves? Do we have an agent do it? You know, but there is no. I think we could all kind of agree that there's no lack of interest in this topic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
my
daughter's working on her alma mater there at Delphi University in Long Island, and they expressed a lot of interest in it. But you got to go through the student activities board or whatever, and you know, it's waiting to hear back from them, and they're usually run by students, so it's like, you know, they might be interested. Like I was almost in the door before COVID hit, and the girl that was like in charge I was working with was a senior, so then she graduated. So, you know, COVID was 2 years, and now it's starting to pick up steam again, and now you got to start off with fresh contacts. And you know, my daughter actually lives out there and works at the university now, so I have a contact, but she gets frustrated.
Some of the schools are like, you know, some of them might not like the topic themselves. You know, some of them embrace it, you know, but like you were saying, people are interested. I mean, when I do, like, say, MegaCon, which is a comic convention, it's not a horror convention, it's not a paranormal convention, but we have a special area. And when we do the panels, we get 500 people in the room, 300 outside that are pissed off that they can't get in the room, and it fills.
Do them in the parking lot.
Yeah. It fills the place always. I mean, I was doing. Do you guys know Mark Muncy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Mark is great. I love Mark. Me and him had a panel at MegaCon this year on Sunday, the last hour of the convention. We were expecting nobody, and we had a completely packed room. It was unbelievable because people are interested, and it was me and him talking about stories from Florida. You know, and it just packed the room on a Sunday at the last hour of the day. And, you know, people are interested.
Yeah. And when, you know, you can get an audience that, and those type of people that are really interested are really engaged. And a lot of people ask good questions. Just like out here, people ask a lot of good questions. What? It's going off again.
People have a lot of good questions at times. I mean, sometimes you get one or two that are a little off, but you know, for the most part, you get a lot of good questions because, you know, I find that the best questions I get are a lot of times from the libraries when I do the libraries, because those people are coming there purely because they're interested in what you have to say. Where, you know, maybe at a Comic-Con, they're like, oh, paranormal, we'll go see it. They're looking a little more, and that's why we adjust our panels. They're looking a little more to be entertained at a convention as far as being educated, you know, where the libraries, they want to be a little more educated. So, but at the libraries, I mean, when we're packing down, we used to get 1 hour originally they gave us, and then they were shutting the air off on us and about to turn the power off because we were there for like 3 hours. Because people, our library shows literally go 3 hours at least.
I asked for 2 hours easily.
Yeah. The people come up at the end too while we're packing up, and they're just filled with questions. And I will stay there as long as they'll let me to answer every question. Because,
that's why lately I booked a few this year that are on Saturdays because they'll close at 5. So I'll say I'll do 1 to 3. But they don't care if you stay over. But if you're doing 6 to 8 and they close at 8, I'm like, look, these people have families, they want to get home too, and You know,
Right.
sometimes it's tough, and I'm like, look, folks, I want to answer your questions. Send me a message, send me an email. You know, here's my card or whatever.
That's
I'll
why
get back.
they give us earlier times now. You know, we get like 2 to 4, and they actually close at 6. So we kind of have, you know,
Yeah,
I have 4 coming up. I have Palm Beach County Library, September 31st. I have 2 in Miami, October 7th, October 14th. I don't know which ones yet. And then
Yeah.
Coconut Creek by me on October 21st. And you know, we usually pack the places for these. People just are very interested. They have a lot of questions, and a lot of times they come in and they hear stuff we talk about that they weren't expecting. Like when I do talk about orbs and stuff, you know, and we tell them a little bit of things they've never heard because maybe they only watch TV, you know, so they've never heard somebody tell them something might not be paranormal or something could be something else. You know,
or
I
you might
talk
give them
about,
an explanation that they didn't think of.
yeah, I
Say,
talk
oh, you know
about
what? I might
cases.
have a gerbil living in my wall. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. I tell them how I found everything, animals in people's walls, leaky things in the walls. We had a case in New Jersey that was so bad EMF that they were hallucinating from it, you know. So there's a lot of different things that can happen. And, you know, people sometimes don't expect to hear that from us.
Yep.
Yeah, there could be environmental issues like excessive mold growth that could affect things
Right.
with
Yeah.
long exposures. I mean, it's possible, although, you know, maybe not likely, but it is possible.
Yeah. There's a lot of things,
You
you
gotta
know, but
look outside the box sometimes. You know, but
What do
the
you-
biggest problem I found with libraries is the seating. There's not enough seating. I remember I did one. It was a very small library, and it only allowed, I think, tops 30 people, and there was like 80 people outside, and people
Yeah.
were pissed.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, so I tell the libraries, I said, you do have pre-registration, right? And they're like, well, they always overbook in case someone doesn't show up. I'm like, well, you deal with that then. But I had to go outside because this little old librarian was like 75, 80 years old, and they're yelling at her. And I came outside and said, look, folks, here's where we're going to be, you know, over the next few weeks. You might have to travel a little bit, but, you know, there's only, fire codes. You gotta respect that. But if you didn't pre-register, it's your fault.
Well, that's why I like Coconut Creek that we do over here. It's the town next to me, and the library is also used for the college, and it's huge. It holds, I would say, it holds a couple hundred. I don't know. It's a big, huge arena in there. I love it. That one is so nice.
High schools are good because they usually have the auditorium.
Yeah.
500 seats in there or whatever.
Yeah. Some here, some of the libraries are good. Some of them are small. We had one in Miami last year that, luckily, I don't know, they didn't advertise it too well or something, and there wasn't a lot of people there. But and it was close to Halloween, I think. But what happened was we were supposed to be in their like little auditorium, and when we showed up that morning, they had brought all the voting equipment in and took up the whole thing with the voting. So they had to put us they had to roll shelves aside and put us in the middle of the actual library with like 20 seats. But, but we still got all my equipment set up somehow.
Sometimes it's nice to have a small crowd, though.
Yeah. Well,
you can interact more with people.
I'll tell you, I've gotten used to having the bigger crowds. I kind of like them better. I don't mind the small crowds, but depending on what it is, a library is different because people are coming there to see you. But like I've been at conventions, we had it, even some of the ones last year at Phantasm. Some of them are a smaller crowd, and sometimes people don't want to interact. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to ask questions. Where when you're in a crowd with 500 people, holy crap, everybody's got a question. They want to know this. They got this, and it just seems more interactive. Where sometimes small crowd people don't tend to speak up.
What's the biggest crowd that you guys ever spoke in front of? I'm just curious. Mine was about 3,000.
No, I haven't been up there. I mean, most of the shows I've done at the conventions and everything have been, 500, around there. I'm trying to think. I did a couple things way back, but yeah, I think it was more like around 500.
Yeah, some people don't like speaking in front of crowds. I mean, I'm very comfortable with it, obviously, but some people are better with smaller crowds. I don't mind. I like smaller crowds are fun because you can get down in the seats with them. I sit next to people
Right.
and talk to them during the show, and But the bigger crowds, like I said, I don't like to stand on a stage. I like to be in with the people. That's just my style.
Right.
Yeah, I know we had a library event in Vegas, and they had an auditorium that held 250 people. And once they announced that we were going to be there lecturing about different ghost towns in Vegas or in Nevada, it sold out in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But COVID came, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, I got to speak in front of 250 people. But then COVID hit, and they canceled the event. I was so relieved.
Oh, come on. You've overcome that fear by now, haven't you?
Well, wait, I'll tell you, it was a few years back.
In their underwear.
This was a few years back at MegaCon during COVID. It was the first time we ever had anything at MegaCon, and we didn't have an area, we just had a panel. And I went up there for the night, and I met, it was only and people don't realize that I have a huge fear of speaking in front of people. I do, but I've gotten used to it though now.
Okay.
I still panic a little bit at the beginning, but it was only me and Daniela. And we got there, and we were sitting outside the room. We hadn't seen the room yet or whatever, because there was another panel going on. So we were just hanging out, and I was getting a little nervous like I always do at the beginning. And Daniela's talking to the volunteer who's working that room, and she goes, I would be happy if there was like 30 people here, because it was also toward the end of the day. And the lady started laughing. She goes, good luck with that. She goes, people have been coming up here for the past 3 hours trying to get online. And we're like, what? And we went in the room, and I'm like, wow, this room's pretty big, and we were up front setting stuff up. And then she asked, can we open the doors and let them in? I'm like, sure. And they started piling in. And I tell you, my heart rate must have been like 140. I was like, holy crap. We have a video of where they're pouring in, and I get PTSD from that thing. I just wasn't expecting it, and we went up there, and it's the first time at MegaCon, and I didn't expect that kind of crowd.
They say the biggest fear people have is the fear of public speaking. I must have missed that, Gene, because it doesn't bother me. I'm a big ham,
Let me tell you,
but it's fun.
You see me? You see how I could talk? You see how I could talk at shows too? When I was in high school, I used to get in trouble every day. I know there's going to be people out there like Stephanie that are going to agree with this, but I used to get in trouble every day talking in class, talking to everybody, talking too much. But then if we had an oral book report and I had to get up in front of the class, I'd just take a 0. The same people that I'm getting in trouble with talking all day long, once you put me up in front where I'm the like center of it, I was like, no. I've gotten used to it now.
If you know your subject and you're confident in your knowledge of it, it's very comfortable. The problem I have, and I joke around with people all the time, because inevitably at every show this happens. You've got rows of seats, and the front seats never get taken. And I'm like, I'm going to be picking on the people in the back, right? I'm like, folks, I don't bite hard. Come sit up in front, you'll see better. But I joke around with people a lot, and then eventually people will give in and they'll file up to the front seats. But it always seems like they start at the second or third row and work their way back.
Right.
Sit in the front row. I'm like,
it's not a comedy show. Some of them are scared.
Well, mine are.
Yeah, you guys realize it's midnight already, right?
Oh crap! All right, see.
We need another hour.
No, we can't keep adding an hour to it. Poor Todd.
I gotta go to work tomorrow morning.
I know. Tomorrow's my first day at a job, so come on.
Oh, that's right. Good luck. I'm sorry.
Oh wow. All right.
Well, Bill and I will stay on, Heather. You can go to bed.
Oh no.
No, I gotta go to work. What are you talking
about? You gotta talk to Todd about that one.
Yeah,
but we're gonna have to do this again, definitely, because like we always do. If it wasn't for my computer issues, I probably would have said more, but I've been fighting with my computer, still trying to figure out, because I need it tomorrow for work.
You got to put a gag order on me.
I know. It's crazy. But thanks, Bill, for joining us. We'll definitely have you on again. We'll probably do before Fantasm so we can promote that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
do one where just get people asking us questions.
That works too. Yeah. And Joe and I really don't do topics. We just come on and just start chatting like you saw today.
Yeah. I'm good with it.
I do my best work when I shoot from the hip. But, I'm sorry to everyone if we didn't get to your question, but We got plenty of shows coming up.
Oh, yeah. And next week we'll have Brent Burris. He is the founder of Incarnate Paranormal. Brent and I have investigated with each other for several years, have done a lot of filming as well as residentials, and him and I explored Goldfield together and did a whole bunch of investigations out there. So we'll have a lot to talk about. And maybe Joe will get left in the dark next week and have to be quiet. But anyway, thank you again, everybody, for watching. And I'll talk to you later, Joe and Bill, and I'll see you guys all next week.
God bless you. I love all you guys.
Thanks for having me.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.